Have you ever noticed how the harder you try to control life, the more it resists you? There's an ancient story about a man who saw this clearly. Disillusioned with the chaos of society, he climbed onto an ox and rode away from civilization, disappearing into the unknown. But before he vanished, he left behind a single text, one that would quietly challenge everything we think we know about strength, discipline, and control. Here at Stoic Lighthouse, we don't chase quick fixes or empty promises. We seek clarity, direction, and inner calm in a chaotic world. His name was Lao-Tsé, and at first glance his philosophy seems to contradict everything Stoicism teaches. Stoics tell us to be strong, like rock, to endure, to resist, to stand firm against the storm. But Lao-Tsé offers a different path. Be like water, not rigid, but adaptable, not forceful, but unstoppable in a quieter, deeper way. So the question is not which philosophy is right. The question is, what if true strength requires both? In this video, you'll discover 5 timeless lessons from Lao-Tsé that reveal a missing piece in Stoic practice. Lessons that don't weaken discipline, but refine it. That don't reject control, but redefine it. Number 1. The art of effortless action. The truth about Wu Wei. The first lesson from Lao-Tsé is also the most misunderstood. Wu Wei. It's often translated as non-action, which sounds like laziness, like passivity, like doing nothing while life happens to you. That's not what it means. Wu Wei is the art of acting without friction, moving in such alignment with reality that your actions feel almost effortless. No inner resistance, no wasted energy, no forcing. Imagine 2 men trying to open a stuck door. One of them, disciplined and determined, pushes harder and harder. He strains, he sweats. He believes effort is the only path forward. There's something admirable in that, but it's exhausting. The other man pauses. He observes. He realizes the door opens the other way, so instead of pushing, he steps back, and the door opens. Same result, completely different cost. Lao-Tsé captured this idea with unsettling simplicity. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Modern culture teaches the opposite. If you're not struggling, you're not progressing. If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't count. Even Seneca, in his harsher moments, reinforces this. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. But Lao-Tsé introduces a dangerous question. What if some of your struggles are self-created? What if the problem isn't lack of effort, but misalignment? Because the more you try to force outcomes, forcing relationships, forcing success, forcing clarity, the more resistance you generate. Life pushes back. Wu Wei is not about doing less. It's about removing what is unnecessary. Bruce Lee understood this better than most. He didn't teach people how to fight harder. He taught them how to fight without tension. He put it like this: be formless, shapeless like water. A rigid mind breaks under pressure. A flexible one adapts, redirects, survives. This is where Stoicism can evolve. Discipline without awareness becomes rigidity, and rigidity, over time, leads to collapse. Sometimes, the strongest move is not to push the rock uphill, but to step aside and let gravity do the work. If this way of seeing life is resonating with you, it's because you're not just looking for external answers. You're trying to live with more awareness. This channel exists for exactly that reason. Wu Wei teaches you to stop fighting the current and start using it. Number 2. Why softness defeats strength. The power of water. We're taught that strength means hardness, steel, stone, resistance. But Lao-Tsé flips that idea completely. Nothing in the world is softer and weaker than water, yet nothing surpasses it in overcoming the hard and strong. Water doesn't fight, it adapts. When a storm hits, the rigid tree snaps. The flexible grass bends and survives. Over time, water carves through rock not by force, but by persistence without resistance. That's a different kind of power, one most people ignore. Stoicism often emphasizes endurance, standing firm, taking the hit. But what happens when the pressure is too much? When the pain is overwhelming, pure resistance can break you. This is where flexibility becomes essential. Carl Jung captured this psychological truth. What you resist persists. The more you fight certain emotions, situations, or realities, the more they trap you. Water doesn't resist the obstacle. It goes around it, under it, through it, or waits until the path opens. Same goal, less suffering. The lesson is simple, but uncomfortable. You don't need to win every battle by force. Sometimes you win by refusing to fight the wrong one. Number 3, the hidden power of emptiness. Why less gives you more. We've been conditioned to believe that value comes from accumulation. More knowledge, more commitments, more noise filling every empty space of our lives. But Lao-Tsé invites you to look at something most people ignore. What we gain is something, but what we use is nothing. A cup is useful not because of what it's made of, but because of the empty space inside it. Without that space, it serves no purpose. The same applies to your mind. If it's constantly filled with opinions, distractions, and information, there's no room left for clarity, no room for insight, no room for truth. You don't think, you just react. Epictetus was ruthless about this kind of blindness. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. That's the trap. The more certain you are, the less you see. The more full your mind becomes, the less capable it is of understanding anything new. This is why silence feels uncomfortable, why stillness feels unproductive, why doing nothing feels like failure. Because emptiness forces you to confront what's actually there without distraction. But that's exactly where clarity begins, not when your mind is full, but when it finally has space. The Stoic seeks truth by removing false judgments. The Taoist goes one step further. He removes the need to constantly fill the space at all, and in that space, something rare happens. You stop reacting to life and start seeing it clearly. Number 4, lead from below, the silent power of the valley. Most people associate leadership with visibility, being at the top, giving orders, being recognized. But Lao-Tsé offers a completely different image. Why is the ocean the king of all rivers? Because it lies below them. Water doesn't rise to dominate. It lowers itself, and because of that, everything flows toward it. This is not weakness, it's positioning. The person who doesn't need to prove superiority becomes easier to trust. The one who listens instead of imposing creates space for others to act, and that's where real influence begins. Marcus Aurelios wrestled with this internally, despite holding absolute power. Fame is nothing but empty noise. He understood that the desire to be seen often corrupts judgment. When you let go of recognition, you remove friction between you and others. People don't feel controlled, they feel respected. And paradoxically, that makes your influence stronger. Power, at its highest level, is not loud. It's almost invisible. It guides without forcing. And often, the most effective leader is the one no one feels the need to resist. Number 5, knowing when to stop, the discipline of enough. Modern life runs on a silent assumption. More is always better. More success means you're winning. More productivity means you're valuable. More ambition means you're going somewhere. But almost no one stops to ask the most important question: where does it end? Lao-Tsé saw the danger in this endless pursuit. There is no greater misfortune than never being satisfied. Because if there is no enough, there is no peace. You don't reach fulfillment. You just move the target. Again and again and again. Water behaves differently. When it fills a space, it stops. It doesn't compete. It doesn't overflow out of ego. It simply settles into balance. But human beings rarely do that. They push past limits that were never meant to be broken. They sacrifice health, relationships, and inner stability for a version of success that never fully arrives. Seneca lived among the most powerful men in Rome and still came to a simple conclusion: he is poor who always wants more. That's the paradox. You can have everything and still feel like it's not enough, because the problem was never what you had, it was what you believed you needed. This is where Stoicism and Taoism converge with precision. Freedom is not found in expansion without limits. It's found in restraint, in knowing when to stop, in having the clarity to say, this is enough, not out of resignation, but out of control. Because the moment you define enough, you take your life back from a game that was designed to never let you win. What Lao-Tsé reveals is not a rejection of strength, it's a refinement of it. Stoicism teaches you to endure, to stand firm when life becomes unstable. Taoism teaches you to adapt, to move when rigidity would break you. One makes you resilient, the other makes you fluid. And real mastery is never found in extremes, but in integration. To be unshakable when needed, and untouchable when possible, because the goal is not to control everything. It's to stop fighting what doesn't need to be fought. Everything external can pressure you, test you, even break parts of your life. But the way you respond is where your real power is formed. If this reflection stayed with you, consider subscribing and continuing this journey with our community. Let Stoic Lighthouse guide you toward calm, clarity, and wisdom. In the next video, we're going to put one of history's most powerful men on trial and ask a dangerous question. Was his downfall caused by the world or by something he refused to control within himself? Remember, true strength is not in constant resistance, but in knowing exactly when to stand firm and when to let go. Until the next video.